listen to
Hello everyone, Mask Entertainment's here.
And Mama Entertainments, welcome to our podcast.
On this special podcast, we're talking about one of Mattel's greatest franchises besides Barbie, a long-running and famous toy and movie franchise, Monster High!
There was absolutely no way we couldn't talk about this one. This awesome series has a ton of movies, TV specials, and web series, so we're going to cover as much as we can about their amazing works.
We won't go into great detail about all of them, so we'll talk about a few, and others will get a brief mention so we can squeeze it all in.
Yes.
Alright, so the first one we're going to talk about is for the original franchise. As you know, this has two versions now, but we're only going to be talking about the original. And the first TV special they made was New Ghoul at School, which came out in October of 2010.
First, I'd like to mention what made this franchise so different from the reboot of 2016, why it stands alone in being wonderful and still inspiring to many people who are younger, who are older, who still collect the dolls and the games and the different things that exist. For you, why was this a special franchise?
Well, since I didn't grow up, playing with dolls or anything, because I was more into stuffed animals, it was odd for me at first to watch this, because at first I was like Barbie with monsters or something, because that's what it reminded me of. It was the same people, but that wasn't the case. And they had all these movies on Netflix like they have for Barbie, and finally I said, you know what? They got all these on here for October. We might as well watch one or two to see how they are. And the first one we saw, we were like, meh. And then you got the next one was better. And then from then on, we just kept watching. Eventually, we watched the entire franchise of movies that they had. And it's just really fun.
I have a different memory. I loved it from the first time we saw the first movie, remember?
Really? Oh,
yes.
Okay. It must have been just me then. Okay.
It was you. I have to say, I've always loved dolls. I played with dolls when I was little. I played with dolls as an adult. I'll still play with dolls if you give me a chance, and I collect them, as you know, Rascal. For me, what made this franchise stand out, it was different from anything else out there. The dolls themselves are beautiful, have lots of accessories and standout fashion. And the franchise itself and the web series and the movies and the TV specials, they all have this, the basis is love yourself, freaking flaws and all. And all the characters are high fashion. And every character in here is beautiful. I mean, there's not one character except for Voodoo whom you don't like. You like every character, and they all are high fashion. And they have camaraderie, and it's good, clean viewing. Of every age you can watch it. There's no innuendo.
It wasn't anything like anything else that was on. You didn't have to worry about things showing up in it, right?
Exactly. You didn't need any censors or so forth. It's just a one-of-a-kind franchise, and why they felt the need to reboot it, I'll never know. But before we get to what we don't like, let's get to all the things that we do like.
And there's a lot. So
starting with, as you said, with New Ghoul at School.
And this was the first TV special.
And we actually saw this out of order. We didn't see this first. So it was fun actually seeing it after we saw the some of the other movies.
Right. And this one was done in the Flash animation, just like when they had a long-running web series. Mm-hmm. So it kind of took place, like, I guess, like before the web series started. And it has Frankie Stein, who is the daughter of Frankenstein's monster, and it's her first day at Monster High.
And she wants to fit in and be cool because she's only 16 days old.
Like, oh, so age is really different in this world.
She's a baby compared to all the other ghouls and man-stars.
Right.
But it was so fun. And I think, teens can relate. Mm-hmm. And even as an adult watching it, I can relate how I felt as a teen. Mm-hmm. To some extent, like, she wanted to make sure she didn't make a bunch of mistakes. Mm-hmm. She didn't want to make a fool of herself. She wanted to find friends quickly. Mm-hmm. She really wanted to get to meet other people because, of course, she was created. She didn't have any friends, and she had been reading all these human teen magazines with all this advice and things of what to do, how to dress, how to behave, how to get a boyfriend, what to do. Exactly.
And now it works because you're in a monster school, so she got the wrong series.
So it was hilarious how... the first couple of days she was there and all these things had transpired. She tried to be on the cheerleading team and she wanted to be with the popular girls. But what was really sweet about it is how Claudine and Draculaura immediately went to be friends with her. Again, this franchise is just awesome. They were so sweet and they knew she was the new girl and immediately they went to her and made friends.
Right. It wasn't like with the cliche one where it took forever for them to make friends or to make friends with the enemies or something. It wasn't like that at all. They did a totally different route, and it wasn't cliche. It wasn't cheesy. It wasn't like, oh gosh, it's like everything else, or it wasn't irritating to watch. Right. It was just fun, and you laughed a lot at the characters and how different they were, and just they're very unique, and the little jokes they would have, like with Draculaura, the joke is she is a vegetarian. You can't mention blood or she passes out. And Claudine is into lots of fashion, and she
is the most fashionable of all the girls.
Right.
And also, what you get from this particular movie is the intro that you heard in the beginning, because this franchise had just all incredible music all the time. So you get the first cool intro that you see and the music that you heard that introduces all the characters. How it turns out, if you've never seen this, we won't tell you. But it's a nice, happy ending. It's not sappy. It's not syrupy. But it is fun. And if you watch this first before you watch the others, it's going to make you want to see what's going on.
Right.
With the rest of the series.
Right. Even we watched... even if we didn't watch them in order, like you said, it's still a fun one to watch. So it's kind of like you're seeing like the beginning, like the origin story, even though it's out of order.
Right. And we do need to mention that prior to this movie, it started as a webisode series. Well, actually started as a set of books.
Right.
That don't resemble the movies at all.
Yeah, it's kind of a different range.
More geared toward older teens or adults. And then it became a webisode online.
Right.
And there's actually... a disc called the Scaremaster.
Scaremaster or Scaremaster?
Right, Scaremaster. And you can see all the webisodes in blindingly fast order and hear the theme over and over and over ad nauseum.
Yeah.
I love this, and every time Rascal said, well, can we like just skip it? I'm like, no, let it play. So we heard it like 50 some times.
Yeah. Oh gosh, it's like just friends.
But New Ghoul at School is a great introduction if you've never seen any of the Monster High original series. So it's the first and Flash animation, and then we move on to the second movie that was also done in Flash animation called Fright On, released in October 2011.
Right. It came out exactly 1 year later. So, and in this one, the story of this is that it goes for a kind of like a parody of Twilight, where the students from a werewolf high school and a vampire high school are both transferred to Monster High, and they're immediately bumping heads, and it's all because there was a vampire werewolf war, and the kids now are still fighting over, and it's been centuries later. So like I said, it's a parody of Twilight, because that never ends.
And what's great about this is they all get to go to Monster High, because Monster High accepts everyone, freaky, flaws, and all, no matter what type of monster you are, what type of ghoul, what type of man-star, no matter where you're from, all are welcome at Monster High. Right. So you thought, oh, it'd be like a kumbaya moment, everybody's there, but no, that's not how this movie turned out.
Because they were still the undertones of, they're still at each other's throats every now and then they had this villain called Van Helscream, and who was trying to keep the monsters divided, because they thought if they keep the monsters fighting, they don't have to worry about the humans, because they were talking about if this went well, then humans could go to Monster High, and they didn't want that.
Right, so they had this ongoing animosity that already was going between them before they got to the school. And then at Monster High, you have werewolves dating vampires, and werewolves are friends with vampires, and so when these teens got there from the two different schools, they were upset. They're like, how can you do this? Oh, this is an abomination. Why are you doing this? So the whole movie pretty much goes into about how,
I guess, accept the differences. Let the past say the past. Don't let that affect. Now you don't have to be like that. And you can still change.
And work it out and coexist
you can start
together.
Anew,
without trying to change one person or one group trying to change the other. And sacrificing themselves in the process. But it's a fun movie. It's a little rough at times, like when the headmaster, what they do to her. And
a little bit,
and the guy,
the characters,
as you said, Van Helscream, he's really a really rough guy. He has no values. He has no problems whatsoever and doing harm to any of them, because in his mind they're monsters and they're unimportant.
So so that would be the next one, and I was like, another good addition to Noogla's school. It's a bit of a rocky start, but as the movies go on, they get really great in quality and story and characters and animation.
Because the story, I think, from the beginning, the stories are great, and the writing is great, and the scripts are great. But like you said, the animation gets better. And when that improved is with the next one, which is one of my two all-time favorites, Why Do Ghouls Fall in Love, which was released
in February of 2012. Which is fitting, because this was the Valentine's Day movie.
Yes, and this one centers around Draculaura coming back into contact with a guy that she had a really, really heavy crush on before she got to Monster High, when she was run off from Transylvania, because she was in the fields eating a tomato, but they didn't see the tomato, and she turned around, they thought it was blood, so they ran she and her family out of town, which is hilarious when you see it. But what is this guy's name?
Valentine.
That's Valentine. And he tells her this lie, that he created the holiday for her, and she has this little heart on her cheek, and that he made it in honor of her. And they said, well, if he made it in honor of you, why is it named after himself? So it all goes into how he wants to get her away from Claude, and we won't spoil the reason as to why. And this whole story ensues of how he'll go to great lengths to get Draculaura to himself for this devious reason. But you see more about friendship between Draculaura and Claudine, because they're at odds about Claudine not wanting to date and Draculaura wanting her to go with her, and her not wanting to do what she tells her to do, and Claudine not coming out of her shell, which was hard to believe, because she's this really cool, bodacious character.
But she didn't want to date.
Exactly. So it's one of my favorites, because the story is fun. You get to see what makes the relationship special between Draculaura and Claude, who is Claudine's brother, and another great character, and a sweetie. And just how your friends can help you when things go wrong, or when people try to, to throw wrenches into friendships and cause people to be at odds with those that they love, and how, sticking together can all work out in the end, and, everyone still remains friends, and the culprit who tries to break down that friendship is stopped.
Right.
I mean, that's just basically
that's it. One quick thing I want to mention before we move on to the next special is that they also had this character called Cupid, and I thought it was pretty odd she was in the movie because I think at some point she was introduced in this movie, and then she showed up in another one, and then she disappeared. Then she was transferred to Ever After High, which is kind of a spin-off of Monster High,
we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah, and I wanted to say she was actually a pretty neat character to add in there, but I think they kind of switched her out because she wasn't technically a monster. She was more of like a fantasy character,
right?
So they had to switch it out and replace her with someone else because she didn't fit in that realm,
right? From Greek mythology. And what was really cute is she was this love counselor, and she had her little radio station. And she would answer questions about love and friendship and different things. So it was cute. Cupid was the love doctor.
Right.
So I love that too. I'm glad you brought that up. So we move on to the next one.
Now it's Escape from Skull Shores, which came out in April of 2012, not too long after the previous one.
And this one was really fun because they were on spring break.
Right. And they were supposed to go to Australia and to Great Scarier Reef, which turns out to be a movie later.
Right.
But they get attacked by a sea monster, and then they end up on this island called Skull Shores with this guy who's supposed to be, I guess,
you think he's like a host for the island, and you think he's this friendly, nice guy.
And he really just wants he wants to use the monsters as kind of a freak show. And pray for this giant legendary monster that lives on the island.
And we won't tell you how the story unfolds.
Right. But it is a fun movie. It was still like a summer movie to me almost, but it's good to watch at any point. Right. Especially in summer or spring. It just fits with the theme or with that time of year.
Right. And in this one, Frankie Stein gets to be center stage.
Right.
And because she resembles someone on the island who is long past. But it's a really great story.
Yeah.
And it's fun, and this is one of the movies that really has a lot of action before the end, and how the problems resolve. And you don't see it coming, and you don't expect it. So if you've never seen this one, this is a great one to add to your collection, or to actually, they're all available on Netflix.
All of them.
Several times, every single movie. So if you got Netflix, type in Monster High, and everyone will come up. Add them all to your list, and watch them and enjoy them. But Escape from Skull Shores, great spring break movie. During the time this is out, it's spring break. So if you missed it, go back and
go watch it.
Right. So the next movie is gonna be Ghoul's Rule, which is Rascal's favorite movie, and that one was released October of 2012.
Okay, so this one is a Halloween movie, and this time the first time you see humans in the monster realm. And for this one,
except for the teacher who appeared in New Ghoul at School.
Yeah,
he was the only human we had seen up to that point.
Right,
and he was Mr. Loser?
Yeah, like, no, they didn't do that. That's bad loser tour you came up with. For this one, for Halloween, it's different from how the humans celebrate it. For the monsters, it's a time to hide because there's this old myth that humans hunt monsters on Halloween, where they would actually used to celebrate with each other, and at some point they started hunting them, and the holiday all became about hunting monsters, so they would always hide from humans during that time, and humans were out.
Right.
And Frankie wanted to stop that and to sell the difference between the humans in the town that was near Monster High.
Because she'd been reading in that magazine again.
Right. She likes all their magazines and stuff. She said, you need to really stop reading these. And that was basically the whole movie, and the humans were pranking the monsters in the school, so they wanted to prank them back, and from there it just turns into this this snowball of events,
right.
and it's just super, super fun. I really love this movie because not only was the concept really good, it was different take on Halloween from what we're used to. And
it was a great message at the end.
Right, also. Great message. Lots of great jokes with each character. Each character got a joke or a scene or some spotlight,
right.
And got to see them interact with the humans. Was actually pretty fun because you could see how goofy the humans are. They're just goofy as the monsters.
Right. And there were also, for me, some fabulous fashions. They find these dresses, well, actually, they weren't all dresses, but they find these fashions down in this old catacomb. And they're gorgeous. And, of course, they correspond to each of the main characters. But if you don't know by now, I love fashion. And I really love this whole franchise because they're just gorgeous and beautiful. Makeup spot on. Fashions are fun. Hairstyle is on point. Shoes are terrific. And in this particular one, Ghoul's Rule, yes, I like the movie too, but I really, really like the fashion that they end up putting
so much.
It's not first class, but it'll do.
And another part I would like to add, besides the story and everything, except for the characters, everyone got spotlight from beginning to end. Not just Frankie or Cleo, the main characters, but some of the side characters or even the background ones like Heath or Manitar, and especially there's a Holt, Hyde, and Jackson Jekyll.
Right.
Yeah, and he got a big moment in here too because he could blend in with the humans since he was part normie, is what they call the humans.
Right, and this was such an interesting concept. When he's human, he looks human.
Right.
But then when he listens to music, he turns into a monster.
Right.
And he's this wild, crazy blue character. So like you said, he can blend in when he's human, and then when he's human in Monster High, they make fun of him. And then when he turns to a monster, oh, he's really cool. But when he ended up at the human school, he blended in as a nerd in the human school.
Right.
But when he turned to a monster, he got arrested. So it was a real cool concept.
and even okay, this is the last thing for sure. And then the fact that it got a little dark with the thing called a trick or treatment, which is that hadn't been done in centuries, and they were gonna do that to one of the monsters, and like, oh wait, trick or treat.
It's a horrible thing.
It's at first like, oh, they're gonna prank him really badly, they're gonna punish him. It's like, oh no, they're talking something really dark, like that got bad fast.
Right.
That means like some of those humans were still kind of scary that they were talking about.
Right. And it's the only one in this entire franchise that we saw this type of theme.
Right.
But the way that they worked it, it fit right in. And it wasn't something that you go, oh, you shouldn't be watching
too far,
this. Right.
Yeah.
It didn't go far. But again, the message in the end is excellent. And that's another thing I want to point out. Every single one of these movies and TV specials had a wonderful message for anyone who watched. And that was another great thing about this series. It never failed. So, we'll move on to the next one.
Friday Night Frights, which came on in February of 2013.
And this one was really fun because it had to do with rollerblading.
Right. And for this one, they have a, like I said, rollerblading team, and they lost against a rival school, and they lost the crest. And because it had the literal school spirit.
And this school consisted of gargoyles.
Right. And because the emblem had all the literal spirit of the school, it was falling apart around them. Like, you shouldn't even be going to the school if there's property damage all over the place. That's a lost waiting to happen. The ghouls want to make their own roller derby team because some of the other guys were out of commission, so they were going to make their own team to win back the crest, and the whole special was about them learning how to play. How can they beat them so they can win back the crest before the school was destroyed.
But the important thing to mention is the team was all guys, and all the replacements would be all women.
Right.
And then, of course, the guys didn't like that, so
Right.
it became this boy against girl thing.
Right.
But the great thing is it works out in the end with a great message. We got to see this really cool character called Rebecca Steen.
Right.
And she's one of my favorite characters.
And she's kind of a steampunk monster. She's kind of like Frankie, but she's mostly copper. Yeah, she's a steampunk monster.
And she's gorgeous. And what's really weird is this came out before her story was even presented later on. So
Yeah.
you kind of wondered about more details to her, and you had to wait a while. But this is really a very great movie. Fun, great message at the end. Girls versus boys who learn how to get along and learn, you know, each side has strengths.
Right.
Each side can help
and
the other.
It wasn't just battle of the sexes.
But we're a team.
No, we're just a bunch of girls in tacky, oversized uniforms.
To be battle of the sexes.
And it was not anything that was like, oh, why would you do that? And insulting and horrible.
Right.
It was just
it
a
was
little
fair.
friendly battle.
It
right.
was, and it was totally
like a little
fair.
friendly competition.
Right.
And
I was fine with that completely.
So the next one is Scaris, City of Frights / From Fear to Eternity, which is a short 15-minute movie after the movie that aired in March 2013. And I love this one because this one takes place when the monsters, well, actually the ghouls, actually all end up going to Paris.
Oh, yeah.
Scary,
yeah.
I have never been more angry to buy things in my life.
And they have this fashion designer named Madame Ghostier.
Oh my god.
Who wants to use Claudine and 2 other potential designers and wants them to compete to become her next protege.
Her next intern.
Intern for the fashion industry because she was out of ideas. Like, clearly you're only wearing this one outfit. So
and then during this movie you find a lot about Madame Ghostier.
Right.
And she's scarier than she even seems. But what's great is that you have all these little adventures that take place over the course of the movie. And it's another time, as you said, that Ghoulia, who gets finally her own spotlight. Right. And you get the introduction of a couple new characters, like the one who's part gargoyle and part...
Rochelle. Rochelle, that's her name.
So her and a couple other characters. And there's also a spotlight on...
Claudine?
No.
I'm sorry.
I'm going to call her Were-Kitty, but I know that's not
Toralei.
Yes, Toralei, and she also gets the spotlight. And Toralei, you know, she's this really snarky type of character, but somehow you still like her in all her snarkiness. But it's a great movie. Yeah. It's fun, and they make it as... Scaris is as beautiful as Paris is in real life. And it has all these coordinating... different landmarks and fashion as you would see in Paris. And then after the main movie, there's another like 15-minute movie, From Fear to Eternity, where these characters are chasing after Claudine's fashion book, which really is alive.
Right. Yeah, right after the movie's over, before they're going to go home, and the book escapes from them and starts jumping to another plane, and they try to chase it all around the world, and it keeps going from place to place to place to place, and they're just spending the whole 15 minutes just going after this book. I'm like, man, she must really care about your friend, because you're going to go all around the world for this stupid book. I would have just like, you know what, get a new one.
You know, adding that on to this movie was brilliant, because you thought it was over, and then it pops up, and it's this great adventure. Yeah. It's hilarious from beginning to end. Right. And then again, as the other ones, there's a great message at the end, and Claudine gets her fashion book back, obviously, but it was just fun. It was just brilliant to add this at the end, and it was a nice little surprise. And again, this franchise did such great things that were different, that stood out, that were trademarks for them, because you didn't see other franchises doing this. So this is a great one. I know we keep saying it. Yes, just about everyone is great except for one to us, and we'll get to it later. But Scaris, City of Frights / From Fear to Eternity is one of the most fun movies that you can watch of the original franchise.
Is 45 pairs of shoes enough? I mean, we are there for a whole week.
All right, next up
is my second favorite,
13 Wishes, that aired in October of 2013.
Before we even talk about the synopsis for the movie, this movie is beautiful. The the scenery, the animation, the fashions, and then remember you said it looked like a video game. All the different areas.
Yeah, yeah. When they were inside this lamp, all these different places they were going to within it looked like video game levels rather than regular things. They were just really specifically designed and fun.
And this movie is actually one of the darker ones because it took, it covered people who don't want to be popular and people who want to be so popular that they go to any lengths, including destroying their friends and destroying themselves and doing things that just are horrible.
Right.
And the dark side that can come out when you engage in these behaviors. And it gets pretty wicked.
Right. And for the story, okay, so the story for this one is Claudine's sister, Howleen, right?
Yes.
She finds this lamp that turned out to be...
little sister.
Yeah, little sister. She finds this lamp in the attic of the school, turned out to be just centuries old, and releases a genie who grants her not 3, but 13 wishes. Like, we need one of those.
And the problem for Howleen is she's jealous of Claudine and her popularity and her beauty.
Right.
And Claudine keeps telling her, you'll get there, and I love you, but it's not good enough for her.
For her it's not coming fast enough. She wants to be popular now.
And this is where it gets dark, where this genie gets to take advantage of that jealousy and envy.
Right. Gigi is the genie, and she has to stay with her no matter what wish she makes until the 13 wishes are up. And then she has the shadow that was with her that can actually manipulate the user as well, because she's a part of the lamp as well. So she can convince the user long enough, if it stays long enough, to give them what she wants rather than what the user wants, and then that starts to make them very mean and eventually turn them evil.
And she has an ulterior motive as to why she's doing this, which we won't disclose. But again, this is one of the darker ones, and it is riveting from beginning to end. I love it for that reason. For the beauty, the riveting storyline, and the message at the end is one that, not just teens or children, but adults, anyone watching can learn from, because this can happen to you at any age, and it's just so well done. To me, it's one of the best movies of this entire franchise in terms of the writing and how it was done.
Right.
This was more like they could have actually turned this particular one into a live-action movie.
Right.
And it would have worked and been riveting and just as engaging as the animated one. So.
Right. And another thing I want to point out is that when they have the wishes, like I said, for like movies like Aladdin or ones that have 3 wishes, you got to stretch out those 3 wishes, make one at the beginning of the find the genie, make one have 20 minutes of the movie, make your last wish at the very end of the movie. And here, several wishes happen. And at first, they're actually good intention. She actually was helping the students, not just to be popular, but just to help them and do some good. But then as it goes on, the wishes become selfish
because
and
of
then,
the shadow influence.
And then they become selfish. Then it starts becoming about her, and then becoming greedy, and then it just keeps going out of proportions.
Right. So again, beginning to end, riveting, fascinating, entertaining, beautiful, and a great message at the end. 13 Wishes is one that you should see. I probably should see it first.
Yeah, that's a good one to start with.
Exactly. So now we move on to Fright's Camera Action, which came out in March of 2014.
One call to my father and I'll have you transferred to the night shift in Frightberia for the next 100 years if you don't open that gate this instant.
Okay, now this was a pretty interesting one because Draculaura once again got her own movie.
But she's such a sweet character,
right?
I don't mind.
And for this one, she is told by this vampire who's supposed to be, I guess, the leader of the vampires. She's told that she is the new vampire queen, but it turns out that she's not. So they're actually following this whole treasure hunt type adventure to find the true one by seeing all these clues that was left by the true one all around the world.
And the only reason he wants Draculaura because he thinks she's silly and easy to manipulate, and if he gets her to be queen, then he can tell her what to do, and then he can be the true leader in charge rather than the vampire queen who's supposed to be.
Right.
And again, there's another message about greed and envy and people being controlling, and there's a great message at the end, beautiful message actually, for this one that comes at the end, and it was fun, and it's an adventure. It's another adventure like Scary City of Lights, where it's just an adventure from beginning to end, and you get to meet more new characters,
right,
and you get to meet another of Claudine's sisters.
Okay.
And there's a character in here that never should come out, who, I'm sorry, hate is a word I don't use, but I hated this character. His name is Voodoo. It should have been No Dude. This is one of the worst characters I've ever seen. He is just horrible and irritating, and it's so bad that if you go to Wikipedia, they pretend he never existed. He doesn't even, he's not even listed as a character ever being in this series.
He was like the Scrappy Doo of it. It's like, we promise we will never discuss him ever again. You remember, we will never discuss that ever again. Ever.
Yeah.
And it's, what I like also is that they have more, of course, great pun names for all these places. Like they had London, New Orleans, instead of Hollywood, it was Huntslywood, all these monster versions of human landmarks, which is really creatively done. And
they have some new characters too.
They had, I think that one was called Honey Swamp. They had one that was a makeup artist.
Voodoo is even a good play. He's just an irritating character, but Voodoo was a good play too.
Right, and he wants to be an actor. Let's see what else. There was also this side story they had in there that was back at the school that they would talk about which guy was the cutest. It's the Twilight War all over again. Was it this guy with the chiseled chin or this guy with the dimples? And the guys kept saying, they look exactly the same. And you're like, no, it's not. And it was just really funny how this one just plays out.
Right. So, Fry's camera action is fun from beginning to end. Lots of new characters introduced. A great reveal at the end that, unless you pay really close attention like I did, you don't see coming.
Right. And
a great message at the end as always. So, Fry's camera action, if you want a lot of fun and a lot of silliness.
And lots of movie references.
Yes, this is one to see.
All right, next up is another one of my favorites, Freaky Fusion, which came out in September of 2014.
I like this one a lot too. You can't help but love this one because it's just, again, it reveals a lot of backstory for several characters, but it's fun.
Right. Okay, so for this one, they're having this Scaritage Day at school, and they show kind of like all these different monsters in the family, and Frankie doesn't have anything beyond just her parents. And then, so she actually, with the help of Rebecca Steen, they find this lab underground. And they go back in time to when Monster High was first built.
But it was not, yeah, they do. I'm sorry. It was on purpose. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, and they find this lab that was by Rebecca Steen's dad, Hezekiah Steen.
So you get more of her backstory.
Right.
Too.
And they go back to when Monster High was first built, and she actually goes to find her grandfather, which is Victor Frankenstein, but he's called Sparky in here.
Right.
And I really liked about this movie, even though it was only I think it was only 40 minutes. It didn't feel like 40 minutes. It felt like it was longer, but not in a way where it dragged on, but where the story was just so engaging. It's like, oh no, it's over.
And why it's called Freaky Fusion is because when they come back, is it Toralei?
Toralei, yeah, she messes up something, of course.
And then several of the ghouls get merged together. They become a combined ghouls.
Right. And this goes along with the theme of they had some new transfer students who were hybrid monsters, and they thought they wouldn't fit in, so they kind of stayed aloof. And they kind of had more development with them. And they also had lots of scenes, of course, with Frankie. She got a lot of character development. And we got to see some great scenes with her grandfather, too. Because he was a pretty fun character to see, too. Even though his role was a little shorter. It was still a great seeing all these characters, both the original and new ones. And seeing them interact and all these little jokes in here and what they do and how that he got his hair was hilarious. And it's just a really, really fun movie, no matter how long it is or how short it is, depending on how you see it. It's a really great movie for Frankie, great backstory movie, lots of fun, good way to introduce character, another positive message about Scaritage, and it's a really great one, and just like with the others, you gotta watch that one.
And you really find out what pun Frankie's made of.
Right.
Okay, the next movie, which unfortunately is the only one of this series that we really didn't like, and we're sure there's, many of you out there who do, but this is called Haunted, and it was released March of 2015. There are various reasons why we just did not like this movie at all, and it was a shock that both of us didn't like it.
Right.
And the reasons are, we'll just give a couple.
They're kind of lengthy, but
we'll say that in true Monster High form, it's a different story, good writing, but the animation was different. The colors weren't as vibrant. The costume wasn't as good. Yes, it was very drab. And I'll let you say a couple things, and I'll say a couple things to why this just is a movie that we don't like. And sorry to those of you who do, we just don't care for it.
Okay. Well, for the quick story, it's not even a lot of a story to go on. It's this movie focuses on Spectra, and it's something or somebody is haunting Monster High, or Dracula specifically. So she's going to her old school, which is Haunted High, which is a bunch of ghosts, and she's trying to figure out what's causing it. She gets trapped there by the principal, and there's some dark thing behind it. And for the movie, this was pretty dark, but it wasn't in like 13 Wishes or Ghoul's Rule, where it was still done in a fun fashion, but wasn't too...
And had a good message.
Right. And here, there was no good message. It was kind of depressing. It was dark. It was gloomy. They tried to throw in some stuff, but all the references and stuff that you would see...
a reference to Jack...
to Elvis?
Well, we would say Jack who? Jack... Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh, Jack Sparrow.
Thank you. Okay, want to say Spicer, but yeah, Jack Sparrow, and they just threw that in for good measure.
And then there was one who was an artist, I guess.
Part of the reason we really just didn't like this movie is because her old school is full of ghost teenagers, and we had to realize those teenagers had to die to become ghosts. So it was just a school full of dead kids, which just really was a turnoff.
Right.
It just
with the other ghosts, you understood they were just ghosts. It didn't have anything to do with how ghosts worked. But here, you had to think about it, and it's like, how else they get here?
And the great part of Monster High is, all these are imaginary characters, and it's fun, and freaky flaws and all. But a school full of the ghosts of dead kids was worse than Casper.
Right. I was like, oh wow, this is kind of dark even for them. Yeah. So that's really why, unfortunately, we did not like this movie. You're still welcome to try to see. Maybe you like it and find things we didn't.
But if you're I have to say, if you're looking for fun, don't look for it in Haunted. No. Because the fun is not there. It's just, as you said, there's no way to put it. It's a depressing Monster High movie.
And the red flag from the start is that there's no pun like the others. Haunted. That's it. Everything else is a pun on something normal or a phrase. Here is haunted.
I will say the bright spot is if you're someone who likes, horror movies or the type that have, a mystery ending, that don't have humor and things, then you probably will love Haunted.
Right, that's your type of movie.
Right, it's for you. But if you like the feel and the vibe of all the other movies in the series, then Haunted will not be for you. Now, the gem and probably the most commercial out of all the movies is Boo York, released September of 2015, which was the Monster High musical.
Right. And surprisingly, it was really, really great.
It was awesome.
Usually I dread musicals half the time because when they do musicals, they just do it just to sing.
Right.
But in here, they made it part of the story, and all the songs were really well done.
And catchy and could be on any Billboard chart.
Yeah, and actually they did. One of them actually did. I think Empire made it onto Billboard at one point.
I love that song. You know I played it over and over and over. Yes.
Yeah. And before we get to the song, let me go ahead and get to the story so they know.
Okay.
Come on, we're gonna get to that quickly. Okay. Synopsis is that Catty Noir, who is supposed to be this monster singer celebrity,
and her name is exactly what she is.
Right. And actually, it's also about Cleo and her family, but Catty gets a spotlight for this movie. She takes some of her friends to Boo York with her dad, who is Ramses, and her sister Nefera, I think.
Nefera.
Okay, hopefully I got that right. And supposedly meeting with this other royal Egyptian family,
right?
And they were hoping to unite the kids of Cleo and Seth. So the royal family would be united. So you know that story with the royalty, and
they resort to deceptive practices to try to get them together.
Right, and it kind of takes a turn when Seth ends up actually liking Catty Noir.
No, they actually fall in love. It's
right.
obvious that they fall in love.
Right. When it wasn't like, oh, they got to throw this in here. It was actually pretty endearing. Maybe because we shipped Starco, it wasn't as
endearing.
bad.
That's a perfect description for it.
It was endearing. It wasn't in your face. It wasn't mushy or anything. It was really nice. It was believable. It wasn't running.
Hey, that's a great mashup for you, using Seth and Catty Noir for Star and Marco.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be a thing there. Yeah, and maybe because we shipped Starco, it just wasn't. It wasn't bad at all. And it didn't even feel forced. Then they also have this other subplot, which was with Cleo and Deuce, where the sister and the dad were trying to break them apart, so she could be with Seth and yada yada yada. And even that part was actually entertaining. There was no point in there where any of these subplots with the characters were boring or forced or anything. They were all good.
And there was one other major subplot that pretty much kept the story turning. They didn't know if it was a supernova or what it was.
A meteor. I'm sorry.
A meteor that was crashing to Earth, and Goulia was tracking the trajectory, and they were trying to find out how to stop it before it hit Boo York, and cause damage in Monster World. And then there's the introduction of this really cool character from the results from that meteor. So yeah, there's all these little subplots, and you've got just all these little things going on that all mesh together and make a great musical movie for Monster High.
And the animation also is really even better than before, because unlike Haunted, they had lots of color, lots of vibrancy, lots of movement.
Lots of action.
Right, it was constantly moving, but not to a point where you couldn't focus, but there was just so much going on, and it was fun, and you were just in the moment and enjoying all the songs and the music, the atmosphere, the characters, the jokes, everything melded together for making a great movie.
And this movie also has a soundtrack if you're interested, available. Every song from this movie was amazing. Get the soundtrack. Once you hear some of the songs, you're going to want the soundtrack. You're going to want it.
Yeah, and like I said, all the songs were spectacular. They didn't even sound like songs you hear on TV where they did like a little jingle or a ringtone or something. They felt like real cover songs, professionally done, something you would hear on a theatrical movie.
They took great care in writing and just making it fit in with the feel of the movie, and making it where it would be like a blockbuster song.
Right.
They really took it seriously that it was a soundtrack. Again, this is their most commercial movie. The soundtrack with it, and for all general purposes, if you took this and made it live action, it would remind me of something like La La Land. It was just that awesome.
Right.
Where it was memorable, great story beginning to end, great songs all the way through. So Monster High's La La Land is Boo York.
Yeah, and that's gotta be probably the greatest to date in terms of everything. Not even gonna have to go through a list. Everything was awesome about this movie, and I surprisingly loved it, and you surprisingly loved it.
It wasn't surprising, you know. As soon as I heard that Empire, it was over.
Right?
That song, it was like, I love this, and seeing the fashion and the storyline.
Yeah,
you know.
so definitely you gotta check out this movie. This is fantastic.
Now the last one we're gonna cover is unfortunately the last movie that was released for the original franchise, and it's called Great Scary Reef, which released in February 2016.
And the story for this one is that Laguna Blue, she gets her own movie this time, and a couple of the friends get sucked into this magical pool, and they end up in Australia, which is her home for Great Scary Reef, and they can't leave until Laguna apparently faces her fears, and that's the only way they can leave.
Right.
And that's pretty much the whole movie, and for this one, it was a little different. It was still the same people, still the same animation. The film was a little different. Still fun. I just know it's like two things were different. One, music wasn't constantly playing. Like they didn't have every character had their own theme.
That's true.
You didn't hear background music all the time. They had a lot of quiet moments, I guess, to give you time to breathe. But that's what I kind of like. It was constant fun in the background. And another thing was that the tone of the movie was also different. It was still fun, but you could tell there was a sudden change in the movie. Unlike
there was a
with
shift.
Boo
Absolutely.
York, there was something that was missing. That just missing that Monster High touch. It was more like a movie you would almost see from someone else, just done in Monster High style, which was the only downside I could say about it.
It was still fun, but as you said, it didn't have the same feel. Still had a great message at the end. Had a lot of drama at the end.
Yeah, maybe that's why.
Yeah, and I think because it was Laguna's place, it was more pastel-y, more neon-y, less than vibrant colors than they normally have. Also, that
when
was
they
a
did
difference.
do these, they would have these dance competitions. It was a light show. No, those were actually really good. Those were really vibrant because they had to have like a whole black backdrop, and then all you would see were the figures moving. They were in multicolor, so that was really good. But it was also, I guess, to fit with the personality, it was just really calm. It was a calm movie till the end.
And that was the other thing that differed. Some of the main characters who are more dramatic, like Cleo, and
Toralei.
No, she was in it. Toralei ended up being sucked in it, remember?
Yeah.
Toralei was with them, but Cleo wasn't.
Oh, she sure wasn't.
Cleo wasn't there.
You want me to unleash a plague on them? Because I have a new amulet I've been dying to try out.
So that dynamic that goes on between Cleo and Toralei with the competition and so forth wasn't there. That's one of the things that was missing. Another thing that was missing were the Mansters. The Mansters weren't in it either.
All they had was Gil.
And the third thing was, it didn't have anything to do with the school except for right in the beginning and right at the end.
Right.
And I think that's what really made it different when you think about it for you. The feel. All the other movies are school centered. Even when they went to scare us, it was still school centered because half the school was there, or half the main character was there.
Right.
But in this one, a lot of main characters weren't there. The color was different. The vibe was different. It wasn't school oriented. And as you said, it didn't have a lot of the music that we're used to. It's still better than Haunted.
Right, that's true. It's still an enjoyable movie. Once you get past that, of it being a little different, you'll be fine.
Quick mention. Now, Ever After High, which was a spinoff series.
Yes.
That was not done in the same vein as Monster High, and it should have been.
Right.
Just very quick.
Okay. It's pretty much, it's almost the same format of Monster High, only this time it's the children of famous fairy tale characters, and they go both to the school. And it's supposed to be this big story supposedly coming in every season. And it's supposed to tell one person named Raven Queen, and then Snow White's kiss, and those kids, so on and so forth. And that's pretty much it for every season. Every season has a different theme, different story, and we did not really stick with it.
I think part of the problem for me was you did flash animation the whole series.
Right, they
whereas
didn't
you
change.
upped the ante on Monster High and made it just awesome, with the visuals.
Right.
But that was part of what I didn't care for, was flat,
Right.
2D, The colors were, pastels, like I guess supposed to be fairy tale land. But you could have had a lot of bright colors like they do for Tangled. Tangled is vibrant.
Right.
But it wasn't vibrant. It was 2D animation. The characters weren't interesting. The stories were lame. For me, it didn't have the panache that Monster High had.
And the last thing, actually, pretty interestingly, at the end of one of the movies, they actually had a little clue, a teaser that the next movie was going to be a crossover with Monster High Never After High. And they actually were working on that until Mattel announced they were going to reboot the whole thing while they were making it, and they had to cancel it.
Now, before we get to the reboot, we quickly want to mention some of the great characters that are our favorites, and again the musics. So let's mention some of the great characters now.
Okay.
And a couple of the voice actors that did the characters. We got Dracula, who's very sweet, very tiny. I think she's the shortest of all of the
Yeah,
girls.
and that's usually a joke.
And she's voiced by Debbie Derryberry,
who may know as Jimmy Neutron. Then we have Claude Wolf, who's voiced by Augie Banks.
Who I love. He's now also in, he's done a lot of voicing, and currently he's in the Stretch Armstrong series on Netflix. And I talk a little more about Claude later. And then we've got our favorite, one of our favorites, Cleo Denial. Who was, I guess you said, an Egyptian princess.
Right.
And my favorite, Claudine Wolf, both voiced by Celeste Henderson, also known now as Sally Saffioti.
Okay. And then we also have Gulia Yelps.
Gulia, I'm sorry.
Voiced by Alden
Payton.
Payton.
And we love Gulia. She's just one of the best characters ever in any series. Very quickly, we gotta, for a minute, talk about Gulia. Gulia is this ultra cool zombie. Though it sounds crazy, but she's this ultra cool, brilliant, gorgeous zombie.
Right. And the only thing, she can't speak. She goes, and that's all she talks about. Everyone understands what she's saying.
Right.
And like, oh, you're right, Gulia. Like, she said all that in one,
Now, in the beginning, they actually were a couple times you understood what she was saying.
Right.
But after that, they made it just where she was indecipherable.
Yeah, you had to translate.
But she's just great character who is Cleo's, not on Paws. She's her...
almost like an assistant.
Yes, she's an assistant.
And she's she's a tech genius, brilliant in math and science and studies. She can build things. She's good at art. She can think of really brilliant plans. She knows how to, she knows a little bit about fashion herself. Right. She can fix cars.
About love.
Right.
But we love Gulia, so we just wanted to give her a shout out because we didn't cover her hardly at all during the podcast. But Gulia is one of the greatest characters in this series.
Okay.
Okay, we've got Gil Weber,
yeah,
who is Laguna Blue's boyfriend. He's saltwater. No. Yeah, he's freshwater.
Right.
And Laguna Blue is saltwater.
Right.
And Laguna Blue is voiced by Laura Bailey.
Right.
Then we have
Deuce Gordon and Heath Burns.
Deuce Gorgon.
Deuce Gorgon. Okay, I keep saying Gordon.
Gorgon. And I love Deuce. Deuce is Cleo's boyfriend. And Deuce is just this awesome, sweet character who says dude all the time. But he totally is committed and loves Cleo. And she loves him. And it's such a sweet little relationship. And as you mentioned, Heath Burns.
Voiced by you ever thought did the voice of Deuce for a little bit, then switched to Cam Clark, who also does the voice of Heath Burns as well.
So Yuri Lowenthal actually did both Deuce Gorgon.
Oh, okay, thank you.
And then Cam Clark took over both characters.
Okay, thank you.
Yuri Lowenthal left. But Heath Burns is a funny comic relief character. He's not irritating like Voodoo.
Right.
You actually like Heath. And his name, Heath Burns. Come on.
Right. And he's got a heart.
Then you have Operetta, who's a daughter of the Phantom of the Opera.
Right.
And she's got this really cool costume and look.
Right. And she has the southern attitude, and she has she kind of has this mask on, the half mask like the opera, family opera, but instead of a white part is metal.
And she's got lace on it, and she can play piano like her dad.
Right.
Then we've got, as you mentioned earlier, Jackson Jekyll and Holt Hyde, who was a secondary character.
Right.
Okay. Frankie Stein, who's a major character who you really like, and she was voiced by Kate Higgins.
Yes. And then Abby Abominable, who's the daughter of the Abominable Snowman.
And who's Russian, has a Russian accent.
Right.
And you love her, too, because she has all her crazy sayings from her country.
Right. Now something to do with yaks.
And Heath Burns, of all people, has a crush on her.
Yeah. And
we talked about
Cathy Noir from the Boo York movie.
And we got Jennifer Long, who's a gorgeous character also.
And she's supposed to be, I believe she's supposed to be a dragon. She was introduced in the Scarce movie, then she shows up in later movies.
Right. So those are just some of the standout characters, and you should be seeing a picture now that shows you all the characters that were in this franchise. Just want to end saying, before we talk quick about the reboot, they should have stayed with this franchise.
Yeah.
It was perfect in every way. You read that there were complaints about, characters. They didn't like that Claudine wasn't hairy and that she shaved herself, and just things that, I'm sorry, were just really stupid.
Yeah, that was... Yeah.
They had nothing to do with this franchise and the characters. They were all about glamour and beauty. It had nothing to do...
it was fun.
Right. And you said that they were saying that she should have kept her fur, so it would show she had confidence. She had confidence.
Right.
She was the most confident character there. She was the fashionista. Everyone loved Claudine. Everyone looked up to her. So what? She shaved her arms. Woof, woof.
Right, and I don't understand why that was a complaint. Then it was the design of the dolls. They looked too skinny. They thought it supported an unhealthy diet or something. It's like, what? Where is it coming
They're
from?
imaginary characters. They were fashionistas, and fashionistas, in real fashion, they're skinny, and they had the catwalk walk. It wasn't they were walking sexy and swishing their hips. They were doing the catwalk. If you're into fashion,
Several
and
movies.
you see the high fashion shows, this is the way the ladies walk. And it was cute to me that they had these high fashion walks and these awesome clothes and shoes. All the drama I just didn't get. I think it was stupid, and I think unfortunately, it's a bunch of adults putting in concepts that had no business in a kid and teens animated franchise. It was fun, and that's why I loved it. All that serious stuff had nothing to do with this, and they just need to step off. But let's get to the reboot, 2016 reboot.
Yeah, which is so far only 2 movies, which they may have stopped, is Welcome to Monster High, the so-called origin story, and then its sequel.
You're not welcome.
And then its sequel, Electrify, and a stupid holiday special.
Okay, quickly, this reboot sucks. I'm just going to be honest. This is one of the worst pieces of drivel I've ever seen.
Oh, boy.
How can you take this awesome franchise and turn it into this piece of crap? They have ruined every character. They took out Claude. They took out Claude.
Yeah, she said, where the H is Claude.
It's like all the man stars you love are now these, I don't want to be
They're barely
insulting.
in it. There's only
They're
3.
these real emo, wimpy characters. What was great about the Man Stars before, that they were, these male versions that guys who watch the series would actually want to be like and like.
Right.
And so were the Ghouls. They were actually girls that you would want to be like and dress like. But in this series, I wouldn't want to be like any of these characters. It sucks. And they've taken out all the values and the messages that were in the original, and they've ruined the backstories, and they've gotten rid of pivotal characters.
Yeah,
that just sucks.
Yeah.
You say something, because I'll just keep going on.
I'm going to mention 3 things quickly that I just want to bring up. 1, they changed the whole story to where the kids came up with the idea of Monster High, not that it was built centuries ago. And in this one, all the monsters are hiding from humans because humans are hunting monsters now.
Stupid.
So they're in hiding, and they turn the whole story into Hotel Transylvania.
Okay, 1. Number 2.
As you said, most of the characters are gone from the original. Every so often they add in some new ones, but they only got 3 Mansters. Everyone else is gone, and they replaced Claudine's brother with 12 little brothers.
Stupid. 3rd.
And 3rd, the addition of a villain, Monica Decay, was not necessary because they want to make her a friend, and she's trying to kill them.
And that was part of the greatness of the original series. You didn't have that. It was sweet, innocent, fun, a little dark at times, but it never crossed the line. Monica Decay is a one crazy bat, crazy cow. That's a nice way of putting
Right.
it. I hate the character. I hate this new franchise. And most of all, to me, the lover of fashion and everything, they have no fashion sense whatsoever. The outfits and clothing is hideous. I wouldn't put this on the family dog. There's no other voice to put it.
Yeah,
this
the
is
dog.
horrible. What did they do? Who hated the characters in the series that would change it to this? It's just bad.
Obviously, someone else was in charge because, like I said, they were writing the crossover movie when they told them, cancel, we're redoing everything, and they had to throw out all the stuff. So, obviously, someone else was in charge and decided, we're going to change this all together.
Mattel, you showed some great, business sense before with Barbie and the original franchise and other things, but for this reboot, it was just a really bad decision. It was one horrible move that you made. You're going to really regret doing this because it sucks. And last but not least, the values are gone. And they've brought in issues. There were no issues in the original series. Everyone was equal. Everyone was wealthy. Everyone was equal.
Right.
There was no racism. There was no sexism. There was no none of these things. But in this new series, you've got all these issues that who wants to talk about and deal with? This is supposed to be animated fun. I don't want to see reality when I'm watching a show or a series to have fun and get away from the day-to-day. I just want to have fun. I don't want to see a single mom. I don't want to talk about people discrimination against LGBTQ. I don't want to talk about people being racist against characters that are darker in the series. What the HE double hockey sticks was wrong with you, Mattel?
Right, like, this was not new. What are you telling these kids? Heck, some of these kids don't even like this. I've seen reviews, they said, two sons, they said they really don't like how this show is. They said, why are all the mansters? Why is this show like this? Why do the characters look different? And why are they mean to each other? Because there's just this animosity with some of these characters. Some of them are kind of snarky, and it's all the fun is drained out.
If you really want to see the truth of what true Monster High original franchise fans like us think, go on Amazon and read through it, and you will see they hate it. But hopefully Mattel will listen. Maybe they will reboot the reboot and get back to giving us what we love.
Yeah.
So we hope you enjoyed this podcast. As much as we enjoy this franchise, we still watch these movies over and over. Full disclosure, we've got dolls, we've got animals, we've got almost all the movies. We've got, what else we got? We got notebooks, we got folders, we got lunch boxes,
right?
Which we don't use for lunch, but we love Monster High.
Right? All right, that wraps things up for us.
Next week, we'll be doing a 1-hour podcast on another favorite, the 2010 reboot of My Little Pony.
Friendship is magic.
And we hopefully will be having an intro done for us by the wonderful, fantastic, and as she says, my favorite YouTube friend, Chloe the Hedgehog.
Okay. All right, that wraps things up for us. I'm Rascal Entertainments.
And I'm Mama Entertainments. And
have a toontastic day.
Peace and love yourself, freaky flaws and all.
Come on, let's go dance.
Flashing lights, trying to walk around, man, who the hell are you? What you wanna do? My man, it's on you. Man, it's on you. With her in my dreams, she was my queen. A castle in the mountaintops, rivers and streams. Plucking sunlight from the sky in my pocket, give it to you later on in the form